The United States has just taken the most consequential step of Donald Trump's second presidential term. On Wednesday, October 22, 2025, the White House officially unveiled sweeping sanctions against two of Russia's energy giants, Rosneft and Lukoil. These are not just companies, they are the financial pillars of the Russian Federation, generating nearly 30% of the state's budget through oil and gas revenues. Without this stream of income, Moscow's economy faces crushing pressure. In a statement, the U.S. Department of the Treasury emphasized that these measures are designed to cripple Russia's energy sector and restrict the Kremlin's ability to fund its military operations. Analysts from the Atlantic Council noted that the move targets not just two corporations but the entire supply chain, from oil extraction to refining and transportation. At its core, the sanctions prohibit American entities from conducting any business with Rosneft and Lukoil, freeze their assets in the United States, and threaten secondary sanctions against foreign banks and traders that continue collaborating with them. For Russia, this is no longer a selective strike. It's a direct hit to the heart of its energy economy. President Vladimir Putin, in an interview, called the sanctions serious and warned they would have consequences, yet vowed that Russia would not alter its course under external pressure. In Washington, this move is being hailed as a long-awaited step. Former State Department official Edward Fishman labeled it a defining moment. But the question remains, will these secondary sanctions truly bite, and can the U.S. effectively choke off Russia's oil supply to its key buyers in Asia? Experts say the outcome hinges on the response of two major players, India and China, both massive importers of Russian oil, attracted by its affordability and logistical ease. Losing these supplies would be a serious blow, but complying with U.S. sanctions could trigger political friction with the Trump administration. According to insider reports from Moscow, Putin has reached out to both New Delhi and Beijing, urging them to demonstrate BRICS solidarity. He reportedly offered discounts of up to $15 per barrel and discussed possible restrictions on U.S. oil imports as retaliation. The time for unity has come, Putin's message stated. Our mission is to challenge U.S. dominance and the global dollar system. The ruble, yuan, and rupee must anchor a new multipolar world. Yet despite tempting offers, both India and China are treading cautiously. The risks of losing Western markets and provoking Washington outweigh the short-term benefits of cheap oil. Sources reveal that companies in both nations are already auditing their trade operations to assess potential exposure to U.S. sanctions. Analysts warn that if these purchases continue unchanged, the sanctions' overall impact could remain limited. For Russia, and for Putin personally, this is a defining crossroads. One path leads toward ending the war in Ukraine and easing Western pressure, the other, toward further escalation and rallying BRICS allies against the U.S. Judging by the Kremlin's actions, Russia appears to have chosen the latter. If Washington's strategy works, if India and China scale back purchases, if secondary sanctions bite, and if Russia's oil economy cracks, this could mark a turning point. But if Moscow finds new ways to bypass restrictions and keep its oil flowing, the blow may only be temporary. Officials in Washington stress that this is not just economic pressure, it's a move to reshape the architecture of global energy and finance. The Treasury's statement concluded, "Lasting peace depends on Russia's willingness to act in good faith." Markets reacted immediately. Oil prices surged, while Russian stock indices plunged. Beijing responded with a sharp statement condemning the sanctions as baseless and illegal, warning that such actions threaten global stability. The world now stands on the edge of a new geopolitical era, where energy, finance, and power politics are deeply entangled. The U.S. has made its boldest move of Trump's second term. Russia has answered with an appeal to its allies. Governments and markets brace for what could become a global realignment. If Russia loses this gamble, its budget will collapse, debts will rise, and internal instability will grow. But if it endures, the ruble, yuan, and rupee could rise as credible global currencies, potentially challenging the dollar's dominance. Yet, even now, the consequences are unfolding. Within just 24 hours of the announcement, over 15 international traders suspended Russian oil deals out of fear of secondary sanctions. Tankers departing from Primorsk and Novorossiysk turned back mid-sea as insurance firms withdrew coverage. London brokers call it the sharpest confidence collapse in Russian oil since the 1980s. Meanwhile, Europe and Asia face surging energy prices. Germany, France, and Italy, once advocates of gradual disengagement from Russian energy, now worry about spiraling inflation. According to the Financial Times, European ministers held an emergency meeting in Brussels to discuss stabilization measures and a joint oil purchasing pact with Arab states. China's CCTV aired a fiery report condemning U.S. actions as economic blackmail and warning that destabilizing energy markets could harm the entire global system. Beijing's message was clear: the dollar-led order is vulnerable. In Washington, the tone is triumphant. But behind closed doors, as Politico reports, even Trump's advisors admit, if India and China don't comply, the impact may be short-lived. That's what makes this moment a geopolitical trap. Washington has wagered its diplomatic leverage, while Moscow risks its financial survival. Experts from the Brookings Institution say this standoff is no longer about territory. It's about control over the world's economic future. Right now, the situation hangs by a thread. Russia prepares new countermeasures. Trump drafts more sanction packages. Global markets tremble. Brussels scrambles. Beijing remains watchful and silent. The world holds its breath, waiting to see who will make the next move. In a world shifting toward a new balance of power, every decision made today could reshape tomorrow's global order. As these events unfold, from Washington to Moscow, Beijing to New Delhi, the stakes have never been higher. Stay informed, stay ahead, and don't miss the stories shaping our future. Subscribe to Insight Global for in-depth analysis, sharp insights, and real-time updates on the world's most defining moments. Your window to global awareness starts here.